Welcome to the Leaner, Stronger, and Confident as Fuck podcast. In today's episode, I want to give you an update of my fitness photoshoot prep so far. So I am currently 10 weeks into this 30-week prep that I'm doing with the goal of getting in my best physique to date for my 43rd birthday. So I'm going to turn 43 mid-June, and this goal is very much in process now. And I've given a couple of other bits of detail about how I'm approaching this prep and exactly what is involved in earlier episodes of the podcast. So if you want to go and check those out, just scroll back a little bit in the episodes on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you'll be able to see exactly why I'm doing this goal, and you'll be able to hear about how my training and my nutrition has been set up to be able to achieve this goal. But what I wanted to share with you in this episode are some lessons that I've learned so far along the way. So like I said, I'm like 10 weeks into this journey, and I've been doing some reflecting because obviously we've just started a new year about what has been working and also what I have just been growing through in just the last 10 weeks and what's really cemented for me in terms of what it requires for a body transformation journey. So I'm going to dive into that in a bit more detail. But in terms of where I'm actually at with the prep right now, I am pretty much doing very similar things to what I was doing last time I gave you an update, which is why I haven't done a very frequent update recently, because nothing has really changed. I have still been following a meal plan, really nailing my nutrition 7 days of the week. The only thing that has changed with my nutrition is that I'm now doing some low days and some high days. So I now have 3 lower days where my calories are at 1,895 and 4 higher days, which is at 2,195 calories. So I was on 2,195 calories for quite a while across 7 days. And then all that's happened is I've had 3 days where my calories have been reduced to 1,895. And we've done that on my non-training days. So I still have plenty of fuel to train with on the 4 days that I lift weights. And then on those other days, the calories have just been slightly lowered. My protein has stayed the same at 150 grams of protein a day. Those calories that have been reduced have just come from carbs. And all that's happened on those lower days is that I have started eating slightly less rice and slightly less sweet potato. And that is literally it. And my steps have stayed the same at 12,000 a day. My cardio has gone up very slightly. So I'm now doing 2 30-minute sessions of cardio a week. I'm training hard. I'm in a really great routine with it all. I have definitely been getting leaner across these 10 weeks. My measurements have decreased a bit. The scale has started to drop slightly, but for the majority of the first 2 months, my scale average stayed exactly the same. And I put a post on my Instagram about that actually this week, because I have so many conversations with my clients about the scale, and so many of us have very funky relationships with the scale, which is unfortunately quite common because of how so many of us have kind of grown up with body image things that we've all dealt with and things like that. I certainly have worked through my own funky relationship with the scale. And the purpose of the post that I put on Instagram was really just to highlight how if you're focusing on body transformation, you can still make progress and it not show up on the scale. And of course, when we're in a fat loss phase, we do want to be looking for the scale going down, but it's not the be all and end all in a body transformation journey. And if you look at the photos that I've been sharing on Instagram, you'll see that I have got leaner, that I have become more defined in the last 2 months, and the scale has literally not changed. And so just remember that in your own journey. If you're really focused on building muscle, and if you are really focused on a longer term transformation, not just hopping from diet to diet, then you can't just rely on the scale as the only form of progress that you look at. That's why photos are so important, measurements are so important, and how your strength is progressing and all of those other things play a big part as well. So that's just a bit of an update on where I'm at with kind of how I'm approaching my training and my nutrition and all of those things. So let's dive into the 5 lessons that I have learned so far on this journey. So lesson 1 is that there is always more nuance that can be applied to anyone's journey when it comes to achieving their goals. And this is something with I speak to so many people about, because the women that I typically work with when it comes to coaching are people who are already consistent. They're people who are already exercising regularly. They enjoy exercise. They're getting to the gym is normally not hard for them. They are normally, doing some sort of exercise 4 to 6 times a week often. They are focusing on eating clean. They're eating well. They're watching what they eat, and they're wondering why they're not getting the results that they want. And so consistency is not the problem. It is how we are applying that consistency, and really kind of how we're dialing our nutrition and our training and our recovery and how it all fits together. That's what we need to start paying even more attention to if we want to take our results to the next level and if we are already consistent. And so, for example, before I started my Photoshoot Prep, I was training very consistently. I was training hard. I was tracking my food. I'd been eating at maintenance. I was making progress as well on my own. But since deciding to commit to this goal, what I've been doing with my coach is dialing things in more. And it's just reinforced to me something that I'd learned myself, but I have definitely deepened this lesson over the last couple of months, that there is always another level that you could dial things into. And so this Photoshoot Prep has not got me to reinvent the wheel of the things that I'm doing. I haven't suddenly started to do something that I wasn't doing before. I've tightened things up even more than what I was already doing at a really solid level. And so some of the things that I've been doing are really dialing in the quality of my training. So I have been lifting weights with more precision, with better technique, with better intensity, working with my coach on dialing all of those things in by sending regular form videos. I have upped my protein slightly. I was eating 120 grams of protein pretty much every single day before starting this prep. Now I'm doing 150 grams. I am now eating pretty much almost 100% whole foods right now. And that's not to say I'm going to be eating and living this way forever. I'm not. But for this prep, everything has just been dialed up a notch. And I'm also really focusing on managing my sleep, recovery, and stress management even more. And so I was doing all of these things to some level before this prep, but there is always that other level that you can take it to. And there will be people in this world who are doing things at a level higher than what I'm doing. There will be people who are preparing for bodybuilding shows, people who are, more advanced than where I'm at with my physique. And there is always something that we can turn that dial up a notch. We just get to decide if turning it up to that level is important enough to us. For me, it is very important to me right now because I have committed to this goal and I'm really excited about leveling up in this process and about how I am refining these things even more to get this specific result. And I was talking to a client about this actually just this week, because she started coaching with me quite recently, and she was being really, really consistent as well. And she was already pretty lean too. And so what we've been doing is also dialing these things in for her journey, dialing in, okay, how on point with our nutrition are we across all 7 days, not just on the Monday to Friday, but what are we doing at the weekends? Focusing on, are we being even more moderate with alcohol consumption if we're trying to hit a particular goal? Are we really kind of dialing in our training? Are we really kind of making those slight tweaks to go from 90% whole foods to 95% whole foods? All of these things make much more of a difference when you are someone who is already lean and already in good shape, looking to take it that bit further. And this is where I think so much confusion happens of, all the stuff that's out there online. So many people end up getting confused about what they need to focus on, thinking that all of the nuance is where they need to kind of put all the bells and whistles on. But that only matters when you've got the foundations dialed in. So for some people who perhaps, at an earlier stage of, a body transformation journey, for that person, just working on some healthy habits might be enough to get them to a particular result that they want. But if you are already super consistent with your training and your nutrition, then it is those kind of smaller tweaks that are going to start making the difference. And there is always that other level that can be explored and can be dialed in. So I've not suddenly started doing things that I wasn't doing before. I've just been doing the things that I was doing before even better. And so it's not about kind of looking for bells and whistles or chasing fads or trying to think that there's going to be some gimmick or hack. It's instead, okay, how can I improve the foundations that I'm already doing? And lesson number 2 is something that I have been learning very much in real time, that most of us are not training as hard as we think when our goal is to build or retain muscle. And so I have been working on this really hard myself over the last couple of years to dial in my training intensity, because this is something I know is missing from so many people's journeys when they're lifting weights. We think, okay, I'm lifting weights, it feels hard, I'm doing that consistently, I'm trying to add weight to, what I'm lifting, so therefore I'm focusing on progressive overload. But if we are not taking our sets close to failure regularly, we are not going to be getting as good an adaptation as our body needs to be able to get it to grow muscle. Growing muscle is hard, and it doesn't just come from flinging some weights around or going through the motions or stopping when you feel like it's getting hard. It's really, really challenging. And this is something that I've been, like I said, I've worked on it a lot myself in the last couple of years. And I've definitely been training hard myself, but working with the coach that I'm currently working with, I've been sending him videos, like 8 videos a week of my workout, of my exercises that I've been doing, to really kind of dial in that intensity piece, and have been learning more about what it feels like in my body to train close to failure and to take things to failure and to feel confident enough to do that with some exercises. And please hear me when I say this. If you go and start practicing this yourself, don't start practicing it with something like a squat or a deadlift where you could actually injure yourself quite easily. Instead, start practicing it with exercises that are safer to do so, such as a bicep curl, such as a lateral raise, a leg extension, something like that, where it's much safer if you fail. And really kind of learning what that feels like to kind of get that to that level where you literally cannot do another rep. It's really hard work, and I have to really kind of psych myself up for my training sessions. And yet this is where so many people are leaving results on the table. And it's also another example of why group fitness classes and a lot of like strength classes do not allow people to get to the level of intensity that is required to significantly change your body. And this is partly because a lot of group classes don't have the structure and the progression and the rest built in to create the environment for you to be able to achieve that intensity. And so we want to make sure that we're doing this intensity with solid form as well, because we also want to make sure that we're using the right muscles to be able to create that, to get close to failure with, rather than, for example, just using momentum. So strength training is a skill, and it's something that if you choose to see it as such and something that you want to work on and that feels exciting to work on, then that will give you the mindset that you need to be able to try again and again and again with the effort that you're putting into your sets. Like I said, I'm sending multiple videos to my coach, and every week it comes back with like, okay, yep, like that's getting better, but we can improve this. We're going to work on foot placement of this. That's, still 2 reps away from where we need to be. And he's also sharing with me how he does this with his coach, and he's even more advanced than I am. And so this is why when I often hear from people, oh, my training's fine, I'm like, it's not, because if it was, if it was really on point, you'd be getting the results that you want. And one of the biggest things, this isn't one of my 5 lessons, but one of the biggest things I've certainly learned in my journey is just always be open to learning and to growth, because that is how you're going to just be open to being coachable and to having the feedback that is actually going to help you grow. And I just love how much this is causing me to level up from even where I was before. And I just know that where I'm at now, there's multiple levels above me of where I can grow to if I continue to put in the work. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to go on that journey. But yeah, feeling that intensity of how hard it is to train close to failure and to do that consistently. So many of us are leaving reps in the tank. So like I said, have an experiment with have an experiment with it yourself when you do your training this week, and choose an exercise that's safe to do so, and take it as far as you can, and just see how many reps you can actually do, and then compare it to what you have been doing. It's an interesting experiment to go and do regularly yourself. Now, lesson number 3 is that I'm actually really proud of myself for where I'm at. This is really more just a reflection of really seeing how far I've come. And I share this with you so that you take inspiration for it in your own journey, is my intention. That no matter where you are now, if whatever it is that you feel like you're struggling with, if there is something that, feels like it's a grind for you, or feels like, oh, I don't know how this is ever going to change, just keep going. Because there was a time when I could not have even imagined myself finding the things that I now find easy in terms of sticking to the plan that I have, in terms of, showing up without fail to the gym. I never go back on my word to turn up. And I used to do this stuff all the time, in terms of, owning my choices when I make decisions about how I spend the weekend, or saying no to certain things, whether it's like alcohol or, something that isn't aligned with my goals. And like the mindset that I've developed from it, this is very different to how I was even 5 years ago, and especially 10 years ago. And that has only come from just being willing to fail and to try again, and to get support, and to learn different things, and be open and be coachable, and the love of getting better at, learning more about nutrition and training and habits and things like that as well. And so I also know that I'm really ready for this goal that I've set myself. And there's been many, many years in the past where I wouldn't have been ready to have done a fitness photo shoot prep, even though I wanted to. And so I'm not saying therefore you have to wait to do things to be ready, but just to be honest with yourself about where you're at in the journey, what you want to work on, what you need help with, and get support for it. Because there is also a reason why I've hired a coach to help me with, achieving this goal. Because I am also even though there's lots of things that I've improved, there's lots of times when I also will find things hard, and will want to just go back on, I don't know, maybe not do something as well as I will, because I have someone to be accountable to, and second guess myself, or, any of those things. So get support to help you with whatever it is that you are looking to achieve, because I do always massively believe that is one of the fast tracks to success. But I think because we've just obviously started a new year, I've been very reflective about, there would have been many, many years in the past where I had started the year and been like, right, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to, this year I'm going to set a resolution to, I don't know, not have chocolate, or to not do that. I'm going to change this, and blah, blah, blah. And at the start of this year, I had none of that. I have my fitness photo shoot goal, which is in place, and I set that last year, and it's happening in June this year. I decided on the goal last year. And to get to a point where I could wake up on January the 1st and not want to change anything other than just continue to improve, is a place that for many years when I was really struggling, I could not even have imagined. So whatever it is, that wherever you're at, just know that there is always that possibility for you to grow and to change, and for the things that you struggle with now to be a thing of the past if you continue to show up and do the work. Now, lesson 4. Weekends are still hard for me. This is more of a awareness that I still have. And also, I'm okay with that. And weekends are a challenge for pretty much every single person that I've ever worked with, because our structure, is different at the weekends. We like to be social, most of us, and do things with our family, with our friends, and, be a bit more kind of just spontaneous at the weekend, I guess, especially if you're someone who's had a lot more structure and things, with how we live our weeks. And even though I'm finding it easier to make choices now aligned with my goals, I still find them hard to stick to my goals. I do it, but I still find it hard. I think that's what I'm trying to kind of share as my lesson, because I just want to normalize that these are the most kind of challenging periods to navigate. And I'm not even in fat loss yet. I am just trying to be very, very precise with what I am doing in terms of my nutrition. And I have like some slightly lower days, one of which is at the weekend, because I always have one of my training days off, one of my rest days from training at the weekend. And I'm also having to hit a much higher protein goal than I have typically in the past. And I'm also hitting 3 macros now. And my coach has made it very clear that, for me to get the best results, I really should just keep eating out to like maximum of 1 time a week. And I love eating out. I love socializing. Joe, my husband, and I, we eat out regularly normally. And I'm having to make a lot of changes to achieve this goal at my weekends. Like during the week, it's honestly pretty easy for me to stick to because I love my routine. I tend to just, have a full week of work like most people. And then, the weekends are my social time and my more relaxed time. And I love normally just being able to be like, yeah, let's go. I'll meet you for lunch. I'll go and do this spontaneously. And I'm having to be different to that to achieve this goal. And there's a couple of things about this that there was a time when I used to find these kind of things really hard, because I also kind of thought that like I was going to have to be like that forever, or I was just couldn't wait to get to the end of it because I was doing some stupid like 8-week challenge or something where I was like, I just need to white knuckle it through to the end and then I'm just going to be able to do whatever I want again. And even though I find weekends hard, it's not that anymore. It's just that I'm making some different choices while I'm doing this photo shoot prep, and I'm being more planned and more thoughtful about it because this goal is really important to me. But I also know it's not going to be forever. And I also know that when I get back to being at maintenance, that I will include much more flexibility than what I'm currently experiencing now. And I am okay for making those sacrifices that I'm making in the short term to achieve this goal. And so many of my clients right now are in fat loss. And this is something that I talk to them about regularly as well. It's like, well, if we are, even when we're doing a structured fat loss phase where we don't need to be ridiculously restricted, if someone's in a normal lifestyle fat loss phase, for example, they're not doing a photo shoot prep, which is a different, level of result that I'm trying to get than just a kind of lifestyle fat loss phase. But if someone's in that kind of in a normal fat loss phase, shall we say, you don't need to be super duper restricted to achieve your goal. You need to focus on the big rocks, making sure you're hitting your calories, hitting your protein, being mindful of alcohol, still prioritizing mostly whole foods, and limiting eating out to a couple of times a week at the most, and maybe making some different choices when you're out. But you don't need to be as restrained as I am being right now. And it's also not forever. Either way, it's just a phase to get a specific result. And then we can start to bring in more balance when we're focused on like the maintenance piece. And every single goal that you go for is going to have tough bits. And so it's also just that reminder that if something feels hard, that's okay. And if you need to have different boundaries, different choices just for a period of time, then that's okay. What we want to also do in the process is to own our choices and to do some planning to navigate them more easily. So I'm just thinking ahead more, to be honest. Like I've committed to no alcohol for the whole of this prep, so that'll be 7 months by the end of it. And now I'm in the groove of that. I actually find that very easy. There's loads of like non-alcoholic drinks that I can enjoy having that I can fit into things if I need. And I'm just being much more mindful about where I'm choosing to eat out if I am, and being more prepared around it. But it is still hard, and that's also okay. Doing hard things is how we level up into like how we actually be able to achieve different goals than what we've had before. And that kind of leads on to my 5th and final lesson. If you want a different result, you have to be willing to do different things to what you have also done before, but also to what other people around you might be doing. And that is something that I am definitely having to embody right now with this photo shoot prep. I don't know anyone who's ever done this, this kind of prep before. I know lots of people online and who I follow, as inspiration to me there, who've done bodybuilding shows and things like that, which is another level above what I'm doing. But personally in my friendship groups or in my family or anything like that, I don't know anyone who has done what I'm doing. And so I can't look to them and be like, oh, well, I want to be doing what they're doing, because they don't want the result that I want. So I have to take different actions to them if I want to have a different result. And that does mean not being as spontaneous. That does mean, saying no to alcohol when other people are having it. That does mean saying, no, I can't do that right now sometimes. And that's okay. And it meant making some different choices to people over Christmas, for example. I still had a great Christmas, and my Christmas was actually pretty flexible because of the calories that I was on. But I was still saying no to things where other people were saying yes to. But the difference that I have taken with this, which is very different to how I used to be over like many years ago, is that I now just own my choices. I don't feel as if I ever push them down anyone's throat and be like, I'm doing this, and, make them feel bad about what they're doing. I instead just have a quiet confidence in just being like, no, I'm fine, thank you. I'm not going to do that. Or no, I'm good for that. I don't want any alcohol right now. I'm happy with this drink. Or no, I'm going to make this choice. What I don't do is make a different choice and then feel sorry for myself for, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could have that dessert. And this is where it comes down to, it's like, I've chosen this goal, and that means this goal requires these actions. And so if I've chosen the goal, I have chosen to commit to the actions that go along with it. And it is completely fine if it is very different to what someone else is doing. And the fact that it is different means that I should be getting a different result. And that is a positive. And so you get to then focus on owning that choice, owning the fact that it's different, and being okay with that difference too. And just like anything, it's not forever. So there will be plenty of times where I'll be saying yes to many more things again. And I'm also going to be so proud of myself for all the other things that I'm going to be learning in the next few months of this prep, because I'm just over 2 months in. I've still got 5 months left to go. We haven't even started fat loss yet. And that's where the challenge is definitely going to be becoming even more. But choosing to have different actions to, maybe what your friendship group is doing or your family is doing, it does take practice to feel more comfortable with it, I think, because there was a time where I used to cave all the time, to be honest, and I never used to stick to what I said that I was going to do, or I'd feel really awkward about it, or I feel like I would, people would judge me and tell me what they were thinking about it. Maybe people do still judge, I don't know, they just don't tell me anymore, or I just am oblivious to it, who knows. And I think I started a journey of kind of personal growth and creating a different life several years ago. And I moved to Australia from the UK and started kind of doing things a little bit differently to some people that I was friends with at the time. And it did feel quite alienating. I was spending my weekends going and becoming a yoga teacher, doing yoga teacher training. And I would then go and spend my holidays going and studying to be a personal trainer, to do the yoga teacher trainings and things that I did. And I would say no to a whole bunch of social things because I was really committed to changing my life in this way. And I found it really hard at the beginning because I found it quite isolating. But the more you do it, the more you really kind of, I think, become comfortable with doing different things, with owning different, just being happy with just making choices that are in alignment with you. And the more you become happy with it, typically the easier other people find it to accept as well, because you're no longer trying to compensate or trying to make an excuse for why you're also doing different things. But it definitely is a practice, and one that I feel like I have improved at much more over time. And it's something I speak to so many of my clients too about as well, in terms of if they're like, oh, everyone else is going to have a drink at the weekend, and I don't want to. And it's like, well, if you don't want to, then be okay with it being different, because you're also being true to you. Otherwise, you just end up doing people-pleasing behaviors, and then you regret it and you feel bad about yourself after. And that's something that we want to be proud of, the choices that we're making. And it's okay for other people to do different things. and for you to sometimes do the same as them if that's what you want to do, and sometimes do different things. It is okay. And just kind of making peace with the fact that it is okay to be different is, I think, something that can just allow you to have that acceptance to then follow through on that decisions as well. So I hope that has given you some inspiration in your own journey as well. I will just recap the lessons that I've just gone through here. So lesson number 1 was that there is always more nuance and another level that can be explored, especially when you have those consistent foundations in place. And lesson number 2 is that most of us are not training as hard as we think we are, and that learning to train to failure and close to it is going to give you much better results if you're looking to build muscle. Lesson 3 is that I am so proud of myself for how far I've come over the years, and to you to always reflect on where you've been, what you're learning, and know that whatever it is that you're struggling with will definitely change if you keep working at it. Lesson 4 is that weekends are still my nemesis, and that is okay. It's okay if they're hard. We can do hard things. And lesson 5 is that if you want different results, you have to be willing to do different things. So I will continue to share how this prep goes as we work through all the different phases. I am due to go into fat loss in about 3 weeks' time, but for now, I'm going to enjoy as many calories as my plan allows in the meantime. And if you're listening to this thinking, I am super consistent as well, but I know that there is another level with my physique that I haven't reached yet, and you want some support with it, then that is exactly what I help women do in my coaching, in both my group coaching program, Lean Body Blueprint, and also my one-on-one. So check out the links in the show notes to this podcast episode if you want to find out how to apply. And if you want to find out more about it, just send me a DM on Instagram at Kathy Morton Fitness. But thanks so much for joining me for this episode. I will talk to you in the next one.